This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best place to build a beautiful website. There's this old expression, it's famous, you've probably heard of it, that goes, the only two guarantees in life are death and taxes. This isn't true. There is a third secret guarantee in life that I guess that phrase didn't talk about, which is the guarantee that the Blender compositing nodes does not have a drop shadow node for some fucking reason. Every program under the sun, whether it be Premiere, DaVinci, MS Paint, McAfee, antivirus software, these things all have drop shadow, but Blender is like in this prehistoric phase where they have all these cool features, but they don't have the simplest fucking things like drop shadow. This is a shame because drop shadow is kind of like an essential effect whenever you want to have some kind of object and have a shadow underneath. This is just basic shit, so I guess we're just gonna have to make a drop shadow node ourselves that's procedural and it works in every sense. Let's do it. Well, here we are in the compositing workspace, and the name of the game is taking a highly attractive image like this Shrek here. Imagine making it through No Nut November while looking at this in your Blender workspace. It's going to be difficult, but again, in theory, what we want to do is make a custom drop shadow node that, for whatever sexy image we input in here, what it does is it lets us control the softness or, the blur of that drop shadow. We also want to control the angle that it's coming out from, so this is like, rotating around as we increase this. Also the distance away from the original object, and then finally, how intense is that shadow going to be? So this is the node that we're going to be making custom in the compositor. Okay, final thing to note, I feel like I'm preparing you for battle here, but this is important since we are going to be using stuff like angle and distance. Do familiarize yourself with the difference between polar and Cartesian coordinates and the formulas that take you from one to the other. Point is, we don't want X and Y coordinates. What we want is radius and angle. Don't worry about it. Learn those formulas and then you're going to be ready for, the thing. So step one, we're going to take our image and then use a mix RGB node, which I guess is just called mix, and you're going to mix this together with the color black, which is going to give us a shadow. Take this and then we're going to add in a blur node to get a blurry shadow. So I guess we could do something like XY, something like 100, and then with the size slider, we can control how much blur there's going to be. Next thing we want to be able to control is where this is going to be. So add in a transform node, but we don't want the X and Y Cartesian coordinate kind of system. So to make polar coordinates, first of all, we need an angle, which is going to be in radians. Second of all, we need a radius or a magnitude, whatever you want to think of it as. And then to do the conversion, all we need to do, again, we have those formulas. We do cosine for the x-axis, so put that in there, and then sine for the y-axis. And then once we have these sines and cosine, trigonometric, whatever the fuck, I don't know, take this, and then we're going to scale it or multiply it by our radius. So just connect this here, and then if we connect this to x and y-axis, this is pretty much going to work. But one thing you're going to notice is even though the radius, moves it further away from the center and the angle lets us, rotate it, the angle is going to be, again, in radians. So if you like degrees more, the conversion's pretty simple. All you have to do is add in a math node. We're going to set this one to divide by 360 since there are 360 degrees in a circle, at least last time I checked. Take this and then multiply it by 2 pi, and this is just a thing with radians. Don't worry about why it's the case. And now we have a nice system that lets us control the angle. So this is 0 degrees, this is 90 degrees, etc. And then also the radius. And final thing that I guess we want to be able to control, because it's pretty important, is the strength of this shadow. Why am I interrupting this tutorial for no reason? Point is, the microphone shits itself for the next 20 seconds or so. I don't know what happened. We took it up with management. They're gonna come down and fix it. But yeah, sorry for the microphone glitches. And it's always good to take a quick break from nodes. Continuing. So to do that, we're gonna add in an alpha over node, and we're gonna have this be over the color black with full transparency, just so that now we could choose how transparent this is gonna be. And then once we have the setup, all we have to do, another alpha over node, make sure the original image is on top, and now we have controls for everything. So again, we can pick the angle, we can pick the distance, we can pick the intensity of that blurring, and then also we can pick the intensity of the shadow. Just to clean things up, I made a couple value nodes for each of our parameters, so strength, blur, angle. I mean, there's too many to list, quite frankly, so I'm not gonna. Take these, move them to the left. If it's a red node, we don't want it in our group node, and then everything else you highlight. Control G doesn't stand for Grievous, but for group node. Now we have control over what image we plug into our drop shadow and all these parameters. So again, we can control the strength of this, and that's a more opaque shadow, and then we can make it more transparent. We can make this thing a blurry shadow or not very blurry if it's a low value. We can also control the angle that this is coming off the original Shrekky ogre-like object, distance away from this, and yeah, that's a drop shadow node. Congratulations. And as always, this kind of thing's not about the destination. It's not about the drop shadow, but it's about the nodes we made along the way, and that's a message that's worth sharing. Yeah, see ya.
Wow, we made some incredible drop shadows. Thanks for watching the tutorial, and thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video.
Well done, well done. Okay, Squarespace is a service to make websites without any of the coding. They just have templates for making very good looking websites only with a couple clicks. My website, www.cgmatter.com, in fact, is made with Squarespace, so you can see an example of what can be made with that, and that's not even the best example, but if you play around with a lot of settings and stuff, you can get some crazy good looking results. Some features you might be interested in are analytics, so you can track how many people are going to your website, so traffic type information. Also email campaigns, so you can send out a email campaign sending out whatever message you want to your users. And while Squarespace is already affordable at an annual subscription at less than $10 a month, I'm about to make a deal that is just fire. It's too hot. If you click my link in the description, you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.